By the end of this video, you will be a psychic when it comes to reading coverages in Madden 22. You will be Tom Brady out there knowing exactly what defense your opponent is running before you even snap the ball. The best part is this method works on both next-gen and current-gen Madden 22, and I promise you will never see the field the same way again. But before we dive into that, we first have to talk about the different tools our opponent has available for disguising their coverages. The first thing they could do is go into coaching adjustments and set their defense to man align or base align. And in that case, unfortunately, it's going to be almost impossible to know what coverage they're in before the snap. You can tell someone is man aligned when on every single play, they always have a defender lined up directly over your receiving threats, even if they end up dropping back into a zone coverage. However, if they do this, you can hopefully take advantage of players being extremely out of position at the snap, so keep a close eye on what zones those defenders are playing and make your opponent pay for it. The other option is base align, which is the complete opposite of man align. In base align, the defense is always going to line up exactly the same way, regardless of how you line up on offense. Base aligned defenses can give people some trouble, but at the very least, you can almost always expect it to be zone coverage, since in man coverage, the defenders really won't be in a great position to play their assignments well. Another disclaimer is that it's always possible for your opponent to completely change their coverage using pre-snap adjustments, just like in my nickel 3-5 wide ebook, where I show you how to turn cover 2 man into a true cover 2 by giving all of the cornerbacks and linebackers new assignments using quick adjustments. It is crucial to remember that the play it shows your opponent called won't always perfectly match what actually ended up on the field. Now, with all that said, most of your Madden games will be against people playing on default alignment, making just a few pre-snap adjustments, and that's where this video comes in. What most people don't realize is that there are subtle tells on the field that give major clues about what coverage your opponent is running. Now, unfortunately, these tips don't work with every offensive formation, since they don't work very well on compressed sets, which are formations where everyone is bunched together like gun tight, gun deuce close, or gun bunch tight end. At a minimum, we need at least one receiver out wide for us to extract clues from the defense, and ideally we want at least 2 receivers out wide because that's going to unlock some extra information for us. So to start things off simple, the one tip that does apply to every formation and is the easiest to learn is right when you break the huddle, look at the safeties. If you see a single high safety, then that immediately tells you that your opponent is playing either cover 1 or cover 3, since those are the only plays that can have that alignment. If there's a defender lined up directly across from each of your receiving threats, then there's a pretty good chance it's cover 1, while if the defenders mostly aren't lined up over your receiving threats, then it's probably cover 3. Now, that first tip is great if there's a single high safety, but most of the time, you're going to see 2 high safeties, and there's even versions of cover 1 and cover 3 that have 2 high safeties, so what the heck do we do then? In that case, we want to look at the alignment of the outside cornerback compared to our outside receiver. Now, when determining alignment, I like to imagine my receiver is on a streak and look at the cornerback's feet to determine if he's aligned outside, even, or inside compared to the receiver. Sometimes it's helpful in a game to temporarily put him on a streak so you can be 100% sure that you're reading it correctly. And a quick side note, be careful you're not determining alignment based on a fade route, which breaks slightly to the outside. If your opponent starts shading their cornerbacks inside or outside, then the reads based on alignment that I'm about to show you won't apply, so try to spot the alignment of the cornerbacks as soon as they break the huddle. If the outside cornerback comes out aligned to the inside, then it is guaranteed that your opponent is playing man coverage. Now, we already looked at cover 1 and saw that defenders will have an even alignment with the receivers, so eliminating that from our options, we are left with either cover 0 or cover 2 man. This is where the depth of the safeties can give the play away, and if the safeties break the huddle lined up less than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, then we know we're looking at cover 0. Well, if the safeties come out more than 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, then it's cover 2 man. Also, if you first read the inside alignment of the outside cornerback and then also see a safety with even alignment on the slot receiver, then it's almost guaranteed to be cover 0. Moving on to the next alignment, if the outside cornerback is aligned to the outside of your receiver, then it will almost always be cover 2 or cover 3. Now, if it was a single high safety, then we'd immediately know it's cover 3, but in the case of 2 high safeties, we need to look for more hints, and that's where we hope our opponent presses their coverage. If one of the safeties moves way further outside when your opponent presses, then we know it's cover 3. If the safeties don't move, then we really can't know for sure, but just knowing that it's cover 2 or cover 3 still gives us a huge advantage. Now, if the outside cornerback is at an even alignment while there are 2 high safeties, then things get a little tougher. The even alignment tells us it's not cover 2, and the only man coverage it could be is cover 1, which we could check by looking for an even alignment from all the other defenders. Assuming that's not the case, then we know it has to be cover 3, cover 4, or some kind of match coverage. Once again, if they press and the safety moves way over, then we know it's cover 3, but if not, then we're going to have to accept that there's a few coverages it could be and prepare to make some reads after the snap. Now, real quick, I want to talk about 2 things I do not recommend using to read your opponent's defense, and the first one is cornerback depth. I know some people try to use cornerback depth to determine whether a coverage is cover 2, cover 3, or cover 4, but as you can see from this example in nickel 2-4-5, the cornerbacks line up in exactly the same spot for both cover 2 and cover 3. Another example is nickel 3-5 wide, where the cornerbacks are in the exact same spot for both cover 2 and cover 4. And so because of the possibility of multiple coverages having the same cornerback depth, I do not recommend it as a pre-snap read. The second thing I don't want you guys to rely on is using motion to determine if your opponent is playing man coverage or zone coverage. Here I have a defense in cover 3 in the formation dime 2-3-6, and you can see that when I put the slot receiver in motion, the defender who is lined up across from him doesn't stay with him, which could lead us to, in this case, correctly assume that the defense is in zone coverage. However, when I put the defense in cover 1 and do the exact same motion, you can see that we also have a situation where the defender lined up across from the receiver doesn't stay with him. In this case, we may incorrectly assume that our opponent is in zone coverage when they're actually in man coverage. That's why I put such an emphasis on reading the alignment of the cornerbacks, because that's going to be the most reliable way for us to gather information. In this case, the correct read would be seeing the single high safety to narrow it down to cover 1 or cover 3, and then looking at the alignment of the inside cornerback. An even alignment with the slot receiver almost always means it's cover 1, while an inside or outside alignment almost always means cover 3. So we just went over a ton of rules about safeties and cornerbacks and alignments, and that's why I made this flowchart for you guys to try and keep things simple. It's definitely not perfect, and there will always be special cases, but I think it does a pretty good job for most of the coverages that you guys will see. And now I want to go through 5 examples from real online games to show you guys that these pre-snap reads really do work. In example 1, we can see that the outside cornerback is on an outside alignment, which tells us it's either cover 2 or cover 3. I went with a cover 2 beater, hoping that would be the coverage, and fortunately I guessed right. I was able to hit my receiver over the top for the huge one-play touchdown, and after the play, we get our confirmation that it was indeed cover 2. In example 2, we see the inside alignment of the outside cornerback, and we're immediately thinking man coverage. We know it's either cover 0 or cover 2 man, and the two safeties being lined up less than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage tells us this is cover 0. I run a man-beating route combo with double drags to get just enough yards for the first down, and afterwards, we see that the play was in fact a cover 0. In example 3, I really want to hit this bubble screen, but I need to confirm that it's zone coverage, because if it's man coverage, this safety is going to come down and play it really well. We see the even alignment of the outside cornerback along with the two high safeties, which tells us it's either cover 3, cover 4, or match coverage, and therefore the bubble screen should work. Even though we can't hold a block, we do get enough yards for the first down, and afterwards we get our confirmation that my opponent was playing cover 4 drop. In example 4, we see even alignment on the outside cornerback, but you guys may have noticed that this time we have a single high safety. That means we know it's either cover 1 or cover 3, and once we see the even alignment from all of the defenders, we know for sure that it's cover 1. All we have to do is throw an easy man-beating route to the tight end to pick up the first down, and then we get the confirmation that it was in fact cover 1. In example 5, we see two high safeties and the outside cornerback aligned to the outside, which again should have us immediately thinking cover 2 or cover 3. This time I ran the everything bomb route combo from my last video because I know it torches both of those coverages. Sure enough, we get the one-play touchdown, and we get our confirmation that it was in fact a cover 3 shell. So that's how to read coverages, guys, and if you're interested in that everything bomb, definitely check out this video on the top 5 most overpowered plays in Madden 22.